Well, the footage is significantly worse than the George Floyd video, to my mind, though it has attracted barely a fraction of the attention and the outrage. Mohammed Anwar was a 66-year-old Pakistani immigrant in D.C. He was killed this past Tuesday while delivering food for Uber Eats. Two black teenage girls, ages 13 and 15, attacked Anwar with a taser while carjacking him as he tried desperately to reclaim his property, which he needed. He needed his car to do his job and provide for his family. The girls sped away with Anwar partially hanging out of the vehicle. They flipped the car in the escape attempt a few blocks down, sending Anwar careening several feet away, and he died. Cell phone video shows the victim splayed out on the ground, mangled and bleeding, while National Guardsmen, who, of course, are in the city, as you've heard, pull the murderers out of the wreck. And the primary concern for both of those girls is that their phones may have been damaged. They're running around screaming about their phones while this man is dead. Nobody at the scene, on the video anyway, to include the guardsmen, show any apparent concern for the dead man on the sidewalk. This crime is part of a growing trend in D.C. Over the weekend, two 13-year-old boys were arrested for multiple armed carjackings in the city. A few days before that, and a few days after Anwar's death, a different pair of teenage boys, 13 and 14 this time, were also arrested and charged for an armed carjacking. For those keeping track at home, that makes, 6 kids, all under the age of 16, arrested for violent carjackings in the same city in the same week. The mayor of D.C., fortunately, has the situation under control. On Sunday, she tweeted out a PSA video recommending strategies, quote, to reduce the risk of your vehicle becoming a target, with an accompanying protect your auto hashtag. Now, this, of course, is no different than a mayor responding to a string of rapes in the city by putting out a video recommending that women wear longer skirts. Now, feminists are quick to remind us that rape is the result not of provocative fashion choices by the victims, but of evil actions by the rapist himself. In the case of Anwar's death, the tragedy was caused not by his failure to protect his auto, which he tried to protect it, but by the behavior of two teenage girls who have managed to become murderous psychopaths before either of them is old enough to, buy a ticket to a rated R movie. The question we're afraid to ask, but must ask, is how do kids turn into this? How do they turn into monsters like this? Take a couple of steps further back, widen the lens, and it's clear that the trend extends beyond a carjacking epidemic in D.C. You could draw a line that connects this incident to, for example, the equally tragic case of E. Lee in Milwaukee. A few months ago, Miss Lee, an Asian woman, was lounging alone in a local park when a group of black teens happened to cross her, and they decided to physically and sexually assault her, apparently just for fun, before dragging her to a nearby pond and leaving her for dead. One of the teens charged in her murder, Kamar Lewis, age 17, explained that he didn't really care if she lived or died because, quote, he didn't know her personally. Now, a few weeks ago in Rochester, two black teens aged 14 and 16 broke into 53-year-old Stephen Ammenheiser's house, doused him in some kind of lighter fluid, might have been gasoline, and set him on fire. He died a few days later in the hospital, disfigured and in agony, with burns over 70% of his body. Within a few days of that crime, a white middle-aged girl in a Virginia suburb was gunned down by a black teen. Lucia Bremer, 13 years old, was walking through the neighborhood with a friend at 4:30 in the afternoon in the suburbs when she was approached by the gunman and fatally shot. No motive has yet been given. We're told by the family, by the way, that Lucia was supposed to help with the neighborhood Easter egg hunt this weekend. The racial dynamics of these crimes make them politically inconvenient for the media, which is why you haven't heard very much about them. Indeed, the crimes defy all of the usual talking points and standard explanations. There isn't even a potential gun control angle on any of them except the last. One victim was burned to death, another tortured, raped, and beaten, another killed by teen girls wielding a taser in a stolen car. These crimes cannot be pinned on racism, at least not the brand of racism that the media prefers to talk about, and they can't be used to push the kind of policies the left favors. So our strategy then as a culture is to look away, pretend it's not happening. I really think the image of the crowd stepping around Anwar's broken body and not even looking at him is a tragic metaphor, because this is the strategy that our whole society has adopted to these kinds of things. Still, these kinds of things are happening, and frequently. Young kids, often not yet at an age where they could obtain a learner's permit, are committing unthinkable acts of brutality against totally innocent people who pose no threat to them. Now, whenever there's a mass shooting of random victims in a school or some other public place, we generally will turn our attention to it and will engage in serious conversation and debate about what can be done to stop the bloodshed. But these smaller scale acts of casual sadism are much more common and widespread. They happen literally every day in our cities. Many more people are killed. Many more communities are terrorized. You know, during Trump's administration, his critics were fond of responding to whatever he did or tweeted by saying, "This isn't normal. This isn't normal." Well, I wish the same could be said of a 13-year-old murdering a man for his car. I wish I could say this isn't normal, but it is. It's normal. The murder rate in most major cities attests to that. It is normal, but it shouldn't be. Now, it's not difficult to identify some of the factors that have made these kinds of things normal. It can be assumed without even checking. We can assume right now, and I'm willing to say right now, my guess, without looking, is that most or all of the kids involved in the crimes that I just listed have been raised in homes without fathers. We know that right off the bat. This is the case for the majority of black children, especially in the city. And it's increasingly the case for children of all races as unwed parenthood becomes more and more common. Compounding the problem, many kids spend their days marinating in the nihilistic filth produced by half-literate sociopaths like Cardi B. The rapper Lil Nas X made waves this past week when he released a music video which shows him sliding down to hell on a stripper pole and giving a lap dance to Satan. The video was accompanied by the release of his new, quote, Satan shoes, which feature a pentagram and actual human blood in the shoe. Lil Nas X, who cultivated a large fan base of children with his first hit, Old Country Road, or rather Old Town Road, I think it was called, which itself was vapid, brain-numbing garbage. And I said as much, if you may remember, on this show when that song was popular. But he had a lot of children fans because of that dumb, awful song. And now he's trying desperately to shock us with a shtick that really wasn't even all that shocking when Marilyn Manson did it 25 years ago. Now, the only difference is that Marilyn Manson never pretended to be an artist for kids. This dirtbag did. So he had a whole lot of kids subscribing to his YouTube channel, and then, without warning, he drops the video of him giving a lap dance to Satan. Bunch of 9-year-olds watched that this weekend without their parents knowing. Still, the content itself only fails to shock us because we're so accustomed to living in a culture where putrid, toxic sludge is pumped out of Hollywood and the music industry and directly into our children's minds. This is the situation that many millions of kids find themselves in. They have no moral guidance at home. They consume a media diet of non-stop perversity and degeneracy. They live lives that are 90% online, conditioned to see other humans as disembodied avatars on a screen. There's no beauty in their lives, no truth, no goodness, no joy, no love. That's another prediction I can make about all those kids we talked about earlier. How can we be surprised when they turn into killers and criminals? What else would they become? What else would you expect? It's only going to get worse from here, unless we set about to make massive, massive cultural changes. But to do that would require us to confront the problem honestly from the start. That's the first step. And we don't have the courage to take it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.